The EB-5 visa is the fastest way to a green card, and that is what you want. You open a Google search, maybe you fill in a couple forms, and boom, you have 100 emails throwing random EB-5 projects at you. They all say EB-5, they all look the same, and it's an $800,000 investment that you can't mess up. With that kind of money at risk, how do you know what is a good project from a complete scam? I will give you the 7 critical milestones of an EB5 project, and the more of them that get checked off, the safer you'll be. We have developed and invested across over 700 million in EB5 projects. We've served over 200 plus investors, and we have a 100% USCIS approval history. We've done this. I'm Colin Behring, the CEO of Behring Regional Center. Today, I'm going to take you on a technical walkthrough through each of the 7 milestones, give examples using an actual EB5 project, and by the time that we're done, you'll be armed with the knowledge to help you invest, get your green card, and get your money back. The last milestone will talk about more than just immigration, but it's actually going to bring you to the financial and investing market data that is critical to increase your chances of financial success and getting your money back. Too many people get on our consultations and just ask, how fast can I get a green card? And then if you actually want your green card and you actually want your money back, there are much better questions to ask. And this video is going to help you find out what those are. This is one of the most technical videos that we've ever done. So the chapters, links, forms, and other USCIS material are in the description below. USCIS also changes policies at random. So subscribe and hit the bell to get the notifications on when those come out. So here we go. The first milestone is the I-924 project approval. The I-924 approval means that the core business plan, the job creation, and feasibility studies are all approved by USCIS. The form I-924 is a pre-RIA feature for EB5 and was later replaced by the RIA's almost identical form I-956F. But because of the Behring lawsuit victory, all previous approved petitions, including the I-924s, now have deference. Deference simply means that the prior approval will stand as the basis for the project's future adjudications, and future investors can rely on this approval. In other words, if you use an approved project's documents, USCIS cannot change their minds. This will speed up your future investor approval for everyone, because if USCIS already approved most of the documents that they have in hand, they can theoretically do less work. The legislative fight for deference was actually a huge deal, and both the 2022 RIA legislation and the Behring lawsuit were both needed to rescue the EB5 program from utter cancellation. In case you missed it, the video links for the 2022 RIA policy and the Behring lawsuit victory are in the descriptions below as well. And as an example project, looking at the I-924, our 1900 project in Oakland, California actually has an I-924 approval letter, and that simply looks like this. It's a little boring, and I-924 approvals are typically a 1 or 2 page letter from USCIS saying you're approved. The I-924 and the future I-956F is one of the first steps in avoiding a scam or at least a high-risk EB5 deal. If it doesn't have an I-924 approval, you know that the project has literally accomplished nothing, it can't be relied on, and unless it has a superstar sponsor behind it, probably not worth it. Back in the day, the USCIS allowed theoretical projects to apply, but later USCIS started to weaponize the I-924 to vet out the weak and or pure scam projects. This approval is a great first start at a vetting mechanism for investors. However, in the end, it's still just paper and it's a little weak on execution. Trash projects are still able to get past this phase, so you need to pair this milestone with the other milestones yet to come in order to identify high quality and or solid execution. The second milestone is I-526 Exemplar approval. The I-526 Exemplar filing includes all of the investment documents that the actual investor will actually sign, and that includes the private placement memorandum, the limited partnership agreement, and subscription agreement. This is where you find the actual investment terms, protections, and guarantees, as well as the conditions for return of capital, or how and when you're going to get your money back. I assume that's still important to you. These documents are drafted by securities attorneys in conjunction with highly experienced immigration attorneys, and it becomes a future template for the actual EB5 investors to come. I say highly experienced because there is a material difference between an expert attorney and a petition pusher. One provides a whole lot of value, the other does not. A future video on the EB5 ecosystem and the people involved is actually coming. So we're going to be talking about all the EB5 consultants and all the details within. So subscribe and hit the bell for those notifications. Simply put, if the terms and the structure of the investment are already approved, it cuts down on the chances of the sponsor making false promises that a project simply can't keep. At this point, USCIS has vetted the full future I-526E package, approved it, and the future investors are essentially investing in a pre-approved project. That's pretty good, right? The only difference between the I-526 Exemplar and your investor I-526 package is your personal information and the source of funds report is attached to it. USCIS will also give deference to the I-526 Exemplar approval, and piggybacking off of that can speed up your approval as well. 1900 Broadway's I-526 Exemplar and the I-924 that we just talked about, they were submitted together, so the approval came together at the same time and in the same letter. If any of this is helpful, please like this video to spread the good word. The third milestone is the actual investor I-526 approval. When actual EB5 investors have filed their I-526E packages and they've received approval from USCIS, you know that the project is actually on its way to delivering conditional green cards. As an example, 1900 Broadway already has over 100 plus investors subscribed, a few dozen approvals, and some investors already have their conditional green cards in hand. There are actually live human beings that can vouch for the project's performance. And this milestone reveals more about the regional center and the management and their ability to successfully execute. And most importantly, their ability to actually attract other capital. This part is critical. If no other money shows up and projects can't find all the money that they need to finish, the chances of you getting your green card and your money back is almost zero, which leads to the next milestone. Number 4 is being fully capitalized. The first couple milestones attract EB5 investors with a great business plan and some USCIS approvals, but you're not going anywhere unless the project actually starts. What is the most important factor to getting started? Money! Being fully capitalized means that the project has secured all of the funds that it needs to complete its business plan. To say it another way, the project does not need any new EB5 investors to finish. More importantly, if you are the last investor to sign up, the project won't stop and your investment won't be stranded. At Behring, we strategically arranged temporary bridge financing to solve this. Other regional centers that do it wrong have resulted in complete disasters, and the hundreds of subscribers have gotten their green cards denied. Being fully capitalized means that typically a bank is involved. This actually is a benefit for EB5 investors as well. First, EB5 investors know another really smart set of eyes has reviewed and approved the deal. Banks will negotiate heavily in the favor of financing terms that help lenders, just like the EB5 investors. They require full equity commitments, completion guarantees, closing conditions, and they will also send inspectors direct to the project site and manage each distribution of cash. With the new 2022 RIA policy, new projects have fund administrators involved, but their function is a little bit different, and that's explained more deeply in the EB5 ecosystem video. The fully capitalized milestone is actually even stronger if you have a brand name institutional quality investor behind it. Essentially, you're able to piggyback off of the due diligence of the billion-dollar organizations, their multi-million-dollar staff, and getting to look at all their homework for free. Looking at 1900 Broadway, you see a project that is institutionally backed with financing from Bank OZK, which is publicly listed on the NASDAQ, and Essex Property Trust, which is publicly listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It really doesn't get much stronger than that when you look at a team. The fifth milestone is being under construction. This is material progress toward the core job creating activity. 100% of the developer equity is committed, completion guarantees are in place, and the job creation is underway. Successfully checking off the first 5 milestones will take a project and make it so it's guaranteed to start, guaranteed to be approved, and it's guaranteed to be completed. This continuity of protection is about the best scenario a subscriber can ask for when looking at a new project. This is when we really start to feel great about an EB5 project status. Looking at 1900 Broadway, you can tell that it is now a massive construction site and it's already on the 25th out of 39 floors. Hundreds of workers are on site daily, and we are pouring concrete so fast that we're adding a whole nother floor every single week. We should be completely topped out at over 400 feet tall by the end of January. The crane's over 335 feet at this point, and we can easily be seen at Highway 580, the Bay Bridge, and just about anywhere in Oakland. We are just over halfway to our final height, and we already have uninterrupted views of the San Francisco Bay Bridge, UC Berkeley's Clock Tower, and more. If you aren't familiar with 1900 Broadway, go ahead and see the previous video link that's in the description. Another huge milestone on this project is that we've already started installing all of the windows across the podium and the lower residential floors. After securing the glass and getting the building weather tight, we will be rolling forward with all the interior fit outs, including things like drywall, cabinets, and flooring. We are delivering the first phase of apartments in October of 2023, and essentially we're starting a 1-year countdown from today. 1900 Broadway has already successfully employed thousands of Americans who are our friends, our family, and our neighbors. This is absolutely the kind of construction milestone EB5 investors want to see. If you think these jobs are something to celebrate, smash that like button on this video below. The 6th milestone is to see that the job creation requirement is actually already complete. Hitting the job creation target is a huge relief because the green card is effectively locked in. USCIS issues the permanent green card based on the completing of the minimum investment amount and creating jobs. Finishing the project and getting your money back is an investment characteristic, but it's not directly required by USCIS itself. Behring's job creation is even more secure because we use the RIMS2 economic model. Our job creation is permanently banked and available for all EB5 investors to use when filing their I-829 petitions for permanent green cards. To learn exactly how job creation is calculated, recorded, and then reported to USCIS, click the video link in the description. 1900 Broadway is celebrating this milestone as well. We've created over 1,288 full-time jobs through the design, development, and construction completed already. It satisfies the job creation for all current investors and even has job creation left over for future investors that haven't even subscribed. The project is continuing to create jobs at a steady 70+ jobs per month, which is actually only expected to accelerate as we get further up the building and more trades enter the site. By the time we're done with the project, we'll actually have exceeded 3,100 jobs created. It's an incredible advantage, and it's why 1900 Broadway has become the most popular EB5 project in the nation. The 7th and final milestone is repayment. After completing the first 6 milestones, you are solving for how to get repaid. Hotels need to fill rooms, offices need leases, and apartments need residents. For our example project at 1900 Broadway, it's a multifamily apartment tower, and what we'll need to do is simply lease it up. The quality of sponsor and their operational expertise is one side of the equation, but pure market conditions are the other side. We look at macroeconomic data as well as strong supply and demand dynamics for that specific location and asset type. Major institutions will consider certain gating factors before even making an investment in that specific target market area. To lower the investment risk, investors need to look for critical mass, which is loosely defined as a population base over 200,000 people. Next is the question of economic diversity. Is the investment dependent on a single activity or a single company or industry? If the market doesn't have economic diversity, you're held hostage and incredibly sensitive to small market changes. EB5 rural projects by nature have tremendous risk in that regard. You also want to see overall growth in net demand for that specific asset type. If you have growing demand, you need to look at, is there limited competing supply? And how much new additional supply is under construction and on its way. When starting to think about exit and repayment, what is the depth of capital market interest for that asset type and location? More specifically, is there a deep buyer pool to buy the asset when you want to sell? For example, 1900 Broadway is a multifamily tower in a major US metro market, sitting directly on top of mass transit, and it's accessible to over 1 million people daily. A private equity real estate database will show you that over 1,000 qualified large-scale institutional investors are ready to talk about that deal. On the other hand, if you have a massive hotel hidden somewhere random in the mountains, and there might be 1 or 2 willing buyers that understand that market and are willing to buy that thing at the time that you want to exit, if ever. Another question for some projects is sensitivity to politics or interest rate changes. Infrastructure projects are as fragile as the politics that spurred them, and for sale condo projects are heavily sensitive to interest rate changes, especially when those markets are dominated by investors that are not actual users. So how about 1900 Broadway? What does our financial analysis look like? Visit us at BehringEB5.com to download presentations, to chat with our team, and to learn more. So those are the 7 critical EB5 project milestones that you need to know. But there's actually so much more to learn. Do you have questions about this video and EB5 projects? Behring offers free consultations to EB5 investors, and the link to make appointments is also in the description below. Our USCIS processing time report updates, EB5 ecosystem video, and other content are all on their way. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get those future notifications. I'm Colin Behring, and thank you for watching.